Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Zyori Podcast. It is 9:15 a.m. here, Mountain Time, and it is beautiful August 17th, 2017. We're back from TI.
Wow.
The International 7 is in the books. I nailed the date today, Trent, and we've got a lot to talk about, buddy. How you feeling? Has the post-TI depression got to you yet?
I guess a little bit. It's pretty exciting to have so much Dota watch and stuff like that every single day. Very high quality Dota, and now I kind of get up and I don't really. I'm not at Matu's level of I don't know what to do, but it's a motivating start to the new year, but it's also very daunting. It's like, oh god, all right, like what do I need to do to like make this the year of Trent?
Yeah, it's scary and exciting, right? Because you have this feeling of new beginnings. Like if there was ever a time to start fresh, if there was ever a time to launch a new series, really get my career moving, this is the time, baby. We've not only got a fresh season, but we've got majors, minors coming up. Like the whole space is about to change, Trent. Woo! Getting me hot just talking about it. But yeah, it is a real thing, though. You know, I joke about the post-TI depression, but it is very real, and I have felt it in past years, maybe more than this year, especially the years when I was working. You know, you come, you meet all these fans, you sign all these signatures, all these selfies, and you have this rush of just like, wow, all this shit is real. I'm leaving my house and meeting real Dota fans that are excited and positive and like genuine people, and then you come home and it's just you alone in your basement with Twitch chat again, and it's a war of worlds, dude. It really is.
Very accurate.
It's scary, you know. It's completely different. So I feel like I've adjusted. I'm a veteran at this point, Trent. This was my 4th TI. Isn't that hard to believe? I've been to the last 4 TIs in a row.
Yeah, that was a little hard to believe. Congratulations.
Yeah, these son of a bitch subs keep subbing, and I still don't know how to turn off the Twitch alerts. Mott, please. Anyhow, Trent, let's stay on TI, though. I think that's a good spot to get this podcast rolling with before we move into the real world.
I heard it's a pretty big deal.
Yes. Break it down, buddy. What was your TI experience like? This was your 2nd TI, so how did it shape up compared to TI6?
Well, let's see. What was TI6 like? How long had I been on official Moonduck? Like, only a couple months, I feel like, right? It was like May or something. I think I'd been there for like 2 or 3 months at that point. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yep.
So I hadn't met any of you guys in person.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't really know you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a little sketchy. So I came in there all like, oh god, is this gonna be okay? Chilling out in the Airbnb, but we had a great time.
Yep.
Hung out with some of the like Dan and Roland.
Mm-hmm.
Also
oh yeah.
Excellent. Right? How funny those guys were.
I forgot about that. Our last TI, our Airbnb was half BTS employees and half Moonduck employees.
Yeah.
It was fun, though. It was a really good time. We really had a blast.
Remember we watched like the Olympics a bunch?
Oh, yeah,
on
the
TV?
Olympics. Oh, man, that was so much fun. TI and the Olympics, dude. It was almost overwhelming.
Phelps.
Yeah.
That was good. That was Rio, right? Yeah. Yep. So, and then watched all the Dotas. Wings won. China versus USA was hype as hell, of course, in person. But China did pull it out last year. This year was a little more exciting to have the Western team win for sure, but
However,
Dota...
There were a lot of moments where it seemed like it might be nothing but Chinese Dota. I mean, that upper bracket
was close, man.
Jesus, it was pretty Chinese concentrated. There was a moment where we thought Virtus Pro might be the last hope for the West, but they ended up getting knocked down. Liquid, if somehow you didn't catch this storyline, they started upper bracket, lost the very first series, and then played every single round of the lower bracket to win the finals. So I sat down. Was it you that I was talking to about this with? I think Liquid played literally the most games possible. Like the track that they took through the bracket, it could not have been more games if they tried, which is really impressive. You think about generally that lower bracket, the fatigue, you have to play more games every day, is a disadvantage. Usually that prevents teams from making it to the finals. But Liquid, man, they rode the hype.
Yeah. No, they did exceptionally well. They're eventually they just kind of figured out the draft that was unbeatable, and that's something that maybe you don't get that in the upper bracket because they did play a shitload of matches, and they didn't win every single game or anything like that. You know, there were 3-game best of threes and everything like that throughout that lower bracket, so they had to adjust and like completely get that perfect draft opener. find those heroes that are just unstoppable for GH, and that's pretty much how they won.
Mm-hmm. Dude, GH, man, what a storyline that is as well, right? A year ago, this time last year, dude was nothing more than a pub star, you know?
Yeah.
Like the Admiral Bulldog status. Pub star to TI champion in the matter of the year. Just an insane trajectory as a player. And you can see it. You know, you hear the analysts talk about they play around this position 4. You know, he plays Wisp, Coddle, the 2 heroes you'll see very commonly first banned against Liquid. His Coddle play is absolutely insane. You ever have those pub games where you just think to yourself, fuck Coddle and everything this hero is about? He's it's so hard to play against. You feel like the enemy is always right on top of you with recall. You feel like there is just constant AoE damage coming your way. You feel like the other team is constantly being healed up because they only fight during daytime once they get Coddle Ags. Then on top of that, you've got mana leaks. You feel like you get near him and this Coddle is just knocking you back, and then the real knockback, Trent, blinding light. I mean, GH is just everywhere. There were so many big blinding lights from him in that throughout that entire tournament. It was, I don't know, man. It's insane when you see one team that plays like one hero like that just so much better than all of the other teams.
Yeah, and even if you like got rid of it, there's the IO, of course, which they didn't even get a chance to play on the main stage. In fact, was there an IO game on the main stage? I want to say there wasn't, because I kept waiting for there to be one.
I don't think so. I heard other people talking about it as well. And one of the Bitcoin guys said to me at the finals day, like, man, we were really hoping for a Wisp on the main stage, and I think they watched almost every game.
Yeah. Oh, I guess the All-Star match.
Okay.
That was
well, if you count that.
Well, yeah, but never came up there. And yeah, so the Shaker, the Coddle, and the IO, and you can't ban all 3.
Yep.
Simple mathematics.
Simple. Brent packs the stats, man.
Oh, and then of course we can't leave out the fact it wasn't all GH. The Mind Control's Nature's Prophet, which is also the most OP hero in Dota right now, honestly. I've been banning that hero in every single game for like 2 months. I can't stand that hero.
Another hero not fun to play against.
No. Awful to play against. I hate my life playing against that hero. But like, there's one thing, it made me appreciate Wings. Because when I watched this, it felt like Liquid just won because of draft. And they just won. Like, they had these set strategies that there were too many of them and you couldn't counter them. And you're going to have to play against one of them. And they just kept winning. But you go back to, like, EG. Very similar situation. They had the AUI techies you had to get rid of. I can't remember what the other heroes were they were playing at that time, but essentially it was the exact same scenario, right? You had to ban out these same kind of heroes or they're going to beat you, and then it just felt like you didn't have enough bans to beat them. But Wings... people still don't know what the fuck those guys were doing. Those guys were just, they picked any hero. It's not like there were like 4 heroes or 5 heroes. There were like 20 heroes. And you never knew. They're just going to pick something, and then Shadow's going to pick something. He's going to build Lincolns on it, and you're just going to lose. Like, it really just kind of made me think about how dominant they were. Even though Liquid just 3-0'd, and that's, you know, obviously Liquid, that's pretty amazing. 3-0 in the grand finals for the first time ever. But it still didn't have that same just like, goddamn Wings, man. It didn't have that same feeling for me.
No, I know what you mean. It's funny you reference Lincolns, because I remember just looking up a few times and thinking, what the fuck is that item build? Did I miss something? Is this a new standard? And whoever was next to me would always just say, nope, this is just some Wings shit. I don't know why, where, or what, but it's working. Like, what? It really is. You're right. Lincoln's Void. Who knew? Okay. It was a fun event, though. It was maybe it was a cool event just because there were a lot of good storylines, but I really feel like every TI ups the ante when it comes to additional content outside of just the panels. You know, and of course, Slacks has been a big part of that. And over the last 2 years, he has increasingly become more involved on the creative side. He's gone from being that dude that they just kind of hand a microphone and maybe he's on camera a little bit, to the jokester on panels, to now being the guy that helps write the content, work with the editors, and, you know, kind of help craft the storyline. You know, he does a lot of storyboarding now as well as starring in the pieces, but it's much more thought out and methodical, and I think we're starting to see that show. You know, I really like just the style of the content with him and Casey this year. I think pretty much everybody that watched last year's All-Star match felt like it was a little bit forced. The Slacks-Casey dynamic was good, but it hit this wall where Casey ran out of fodder and Slacks still had a laundry list of banter to go through, and she just started calling him fat and pulling out like the mom's basement jokes, and he's just like, okay. And, you know, once it becomes clear that one of them is running circles around the other, the cringe starts to set in. And I didn't feel like it was like that this year. I even liked that they referenced it in that one bit when they were taking the tour of Seattle. And she was like, oh, when I was trolling during the last All-Star match, he's like, that's because you weren't trolling. You were just acting like a bitch. I loved that, man. That line really cracked me up. So
There's
I think
another good reference too, where he talked about when she botched it on air last year.
Oh yeah,
they had a couple really nice lines when she drew that. He said, "Oh, I didn't draw a cannon on live TV."
You don't know what that clip is, folks. Outside of Dota, at Casey's real job, they were doing a Pictionary type game on the news, and she drew a rocket ship or a cannon that looked awfully phallic. It was quite the clip. If you, I'm sure it'll be Googleable there. But yeah, what did you think of talent spread this TI? A lot of people there. Obviously, Bulldog didn't make it, so that forced some changes into the mix. But Day 9 hosting the panel, Machine kind of stage hosting, doing the variety kind of interview role, doing the elimination interviews, which are always a difficulty. And I actually thought we would see Slacks a little bit more. They kept the panels very serious. Slacks wasn't on any panels. Cap didn't do any main stage, panel or casting. It was pretty much just Day 9 plus pro analysts or pro players that had already been eliminated from the event. So it was definitely a different vibe than what we've seen at past TIs. Like no Pyrian Flax on the panel, I don't think even once, at least not that I saw.
Yeah. In terms of like casting and stuff, I think it became clear that Valve cares about pairings a lot more than before. I don't know, maybe they did before as well, but it just felt like if you don't have a pairing that you're comfortable with, you're not getting main stage. That seems to be what happened. I mean, like LD Lumi, obviously very comfortable with each other. Even if they didn't work that much together the whole year, they did Manila Masters together. I believe they did a couple
and
series
they've got
there.
a long history, right?
Yep, long history there. But like maybe that I'm sure that's what hurt Cap, right? Like he didn't have somebody he casted the whole year. He didn't have Blitz the whole year.
Yep.
Hopefully that changes for next year if Blitz comes back to casting, which it sounds like he's going to.
Yeah.
Toby Sind, of course, was
a classic.
Yeah.
A classic. Sind, just it's like I don't know what it is about that man, but he's just a fucking god. You know, he doesn't really cast that much. He focuses on playing and just kind of turns up to TI. Oh yeah, I'm gonna cast. Oh yeah, I'm just gonna do the grand finals. No big deal. And it's like a perfect cast. You know, his English is better than mine, and he lives in goddamn Denmark. You know, he has a degree in English. That's why his English is so good.
It's so good.
You know, like he's more articulate than I am. He's not even fucking American. And like his analysis, of course, it's like completely on point. It's like the Synderen that everybody comes to love and enjoy. And it's sort of great that we live in this world where we get the best of all worlds. We get caster Synderen when it really counts, and then we get player Synderen for most of the rest of the year. I'm kind of okay with this weird middle ground we've stuck.
Dude, I'm hyped.
He's
I'm
just
excited
that good.
to cheer for player Sind again.
Yeah,
I love Sind.
I like casting.
I don't know if I said OD Fogged, but I thought OD Fogged really showed how much they work together this year. They were excellent. Really enjoyed them.
Yeah, I mean, Owen consistently sounds good, right? It's almost I can't think of a time where I've listened to a major cast and been like, is that OD Pixel? He sounds awful. You know, he's set the bar for himself really high. You know, when was the last time you felt like OD Pixel dropped the ball? I can't even really think of a time. That's impressive. You can't say that for most casters. Everybody goes through a lull at some point. And Fogged, I think it's been an adjustment for him going from playing to casting. But when I talked to him at the event, man, you could feel the confidence. You know, he was just, you know, like when you meet somebody after they've lost their virginity and you're like, dude, you got the glow. You're just glowing right now. That was Fogged at that event. He was on fire, and you could hear it, man. Their casting was really, they were doing the trade-offs. They were playing hot potato. Fogged was even doing a little bit of play-by-play. Like I'm absolutely with you, man. I think they were the breakout combo.
It's like when Merlini does a little bit of play-by-play. That's when I get like the most hype. That's perfect. Blitz is probably the best caster at that too, out of everyone. So hopefully we'll be seeing that again as next year. But in terms of the off casting talent, I think Machine slayed it every segment he was on, he felt
Yep.
kind of flawless. Maybe not the group stage panel, although I didn't get to watch too much myself. I was like away in Newfoundland and stuff during the group stage, so I know there was quite a few jokes and memes going on there, and I heard it was a little bit of a tougher panel to carry, maybe similar as to what was happening with Day 9, where it was mostly just inexperienced people.
Yeah.
Which is rough. I mean, that's not going to be easy for anyone, panelists and the host. But man, his stage hosting and all his little segments, and of course, Jack's Corner, which, like, hats off to Jack, of course, as always. I'll praise that man forever.
Yeah. The group stage panels are always tough because it has that hub effect where there's all these games going on at once, and they did it more so we're just going to stream the best games, and when this game's over, we're just going to jump into the next one. And they didn't utilize the panel that much during the group stage, especially not that much during day one. So it was hard for a variety of reasons, right? Blitz was the anchor, kind of like the PPD that helped bring some experience to the panel, and then you had folks like CC&C who didn't do a bad job, but you could just tell that they were out of their comfort zone, right? Not something that he's used to doing. So kind of par for the course is the way that I would put it. And like you said, Machine obviously handled it well. Very much agree about Jack's Corner. Jack is like, he really is stepping up on all levels right now. He has become that bridge between the East and the West where, you know, it's just impressive. He does a really good job explaining the memes and all that kind of stuff, but he does it in a way that's very PC, very articulate, and it's just impressive to me that he's able to ride it on both sides, because from what I understand, he is super respected in the Chinese community as
they
well.
They love him, dude.
So and that's not necessarily easy, because the Chinese community is very vocal, very large. It's a big group of folks. They have very high standards because Dota's been around in their culture for a long time. But also, of course, like, we know this, right? There is a degree of nationalism. The Chinese teams tend to have a lot of pride in representing their country, these all Chinese rosters and stuff. So they don't like people that talk shit about China or say anything kind of negative about their culture or anything like that. And Jack does a really good job. Supposedly, like, all those memes he talked about, he checks with every individual beforehand to make sure that he's got the details right, that they're comfortable with the presentation, that, you know, he's
That's
not
a good call.
Yeah, that he's like not poking fun at them, but he's just, you know, trying to explain so that this side of the audience can understand. And that level of like care and attention to detail and making sure your presentation is 10 out of 10 is the only way you can make that job work, where you're like, everyone on the English-speaking community is like, we love Jack, we need him on the panel, please have more. He was literally hosting the fucking Chinese panel. You know what I mean? Like, they love him over there too. And it's just, it's one thing to be a translator that's respected on both sides. It is something completely else to be tier 1 talent on both sides of the coin, and that is literally a feat not matched by anyone else. And I cannot put into words how impressive that is for real.
You really, it's impossible to like measure it. He's just kind of he's slaying it.
It's
all it is.
Whew. Sorry, I'm a Jack fan here, obviously, folks.
Yeah, we both there.
Yeah.
What else was it? The Day 9 hosting. I had super high expectations. I think everyone did. I think he did well, but it wasn't perfect. Which is, I mean, that's understandable, right? You know, he's coming into a new game. He's got a lot of panelists that aren't like necessarily ready for this stuff. And in no way is anyone, like, if you ever hear anyone, I'm sure, criticize that panel and stuff like that, no one's going to try and say that Day 9's a bad host or a bad panelist. Like, we've all seen so many like amazing highlights from him for like a decade where the guy's, he's good.
Yep.
But it didn't quite mesh together right. It was, I think everyone kind of has it right. I feel like I keep hearing the same thing from everyone else, and that's the same way I felt. So maybe you guys can disagree if you don't agree, but to me, it's like Day 9 asks question. It was kind of like how you said, where it was like when you had that kind of dry panel before when you were hosting an event, and it's like Day 9, you know, like, I'm going to ask you question, and then you question, and you question, and like these answers come, but he wasn't able to dig any deeper. And a lot of the time, I feel like that was because maybe, yes, he doesn't have that much Dota knowledge, but there were times where there was Dota knowledge questions he could have went with, but it felt like maybe he was getting something in the ear where they were trying to direct him to something else or something like that. But it felt like a lot of times there were like these opportunities to go deeper, especially when you have a pro, because you have these guys who are lightly brushing over the topic, and there's this opportunity to say, okay, but like, why this nature's prophet plus IO or something like that. At least they could like go into depth and talk about it.
The reference you were making, right? I'll talk about it in a bit more detail. ESL New York, the one that I hosted in the Madison Square Garden Theater. 2-day event, Saturday, Sunday. There were some weather issues. I was flying over from Europe. My plane got delayed, so I missed rehearsals, right? Very stressful event for me. And at the time, one of the most prestigious things I'd ever done, where I'm like the desk host for this big tier 1 ESL event. So for that event, I showed up and they said, okay, Melk is going to be your co-host. He's going to be on most panels with you. He's the guy you go to when you need to break it up, or if you feel like the panel's getting stale, just make fun of Melk. It's okay. He's got a thick skin. You can literally say anything to him. I'm like, okay, well, that sounds like a good plan, but I'd really like to meet him before we go on the panel. I think that might help. It is really fucking hard to make fun of people that you don't know that well. Even if they say, like, no, it's okay, seriously, you can make, just throw in a few, like, failed player jokes in there. It's no big deal. It's hard to do that and make it feel genuine and natural and not just some weird cringe like, so Melk, you know a lot about losing, Yeah. And there were a couple panels at that event that I felt were particularly difficult. Like, the one I remember in particular was Merlini, Melk, Purge, me. Right? 3 individually very skilled analysts, but we had some extra time. There was a delay, so we're filling. 3 people that don't really like to fill that much or use a lot of hot air. Melk had the flu, Merlini is Merlini, and Purge was Purge. So it was exactly like that, where I felt like there was no discussion, and just to prevent there from being dead air, I ask a question, one person responds, okay, Purge. Now, what do you think about that? Okay, cool. Now, Merlini, I know you know about this, hero. Come on. Okay, Melk, didn't you play with Merlini? And you just feel like you're one person, like, forcing these people to talk, and it's hard. Like, watching Day 9 was giving me flashbacks to that feeling that I had inside. And some of that is, like, I think because he didn't know those people that well, right? He's pretty new to the scene. And some of the folks were a little bit stiff, as people were saying in chat. Like, PPD really, like, he stepped up. He was so good on those panels.
Talent of the entire event.
Yeah.
As much as I love Jack, and I thought Machine did perfect and everything like that, and Slacks and everything too, but I think PPD was 100% the standout talent. That guy should have been paid the most out of everyone at TI. Goddamn. Yeah. He was so good. Yeah. Like, so good.
Yeah. So what I'm getting at, though, is I don't know that it's all Day 9's fault. Just having been in similar situations like that, thinking about it more, I also started to pontificate, like, Day 9 is a pro player, right? He used to be a pro StarCraft player, so in the StarCraft space, he's an analyst, right? Hearthstone, he's made a lot of content kind of in an analyst role. There isn't really play-by-play in Hearthstone, I suppose. So it's got to be kind of an adjustment for him coming into this space where he's not regarded as a pro player, really at all. He's like, what, 3 or 4K or something like that? One of the recurring themes I kept seeing popping up on Reddit was, stop talking about your 3K pubs. Like, we get it. It's exciting to you. We genuinely don't care. We've been there before. Let's talk about something else. And I just wonder if that was a big adjustment for him, going from analyst to really just host.
Yeah, maybe. I feel like that was the most, that was just low hanging fruit, I think, for people trying to criticize. It was like people who,
yeah, that's fair,
didn't understand, like they were like, oh, I don't like Day 9, I don't know why, and then they just picked the first thing that came to their mind. If anything, I thought that was a good way for him to actually interact with the pros, because if there's one thing that he can get out of them, it's like his experience playing Dota.
That's true.
He went back to the same topic a few too many times of like, do you remember your first game? He asked Ake that like 3 times.
Yep.
So 3 times I heard Ake talk about perseverance and buying 2 gauntlets of strength and running down mid as Slardar. But
yeah, I don't know. For me, the one talent besides you, Trent, who I think definitely could have done a lot in terms of casting or paneling this TI. I think Cap should have been doing something 100%. Main event. And I mean, he's a great caster. Say what you will about pairs, but I think there is something lost when you don't utilize someone like him on a panel like that. Because I think Day 9's great at banter, and I think he really thrives when you can go off script a little bit. Like the areas where I thought Day 9 was good were like transitioning from the Slacks bits back to the panel, where he could add some little layer of like, follow-up question with his goofy laugh. But Cap is someone that's very conversational, and sometimes when those panels get a little stale, it's nice to have somebody that can break it up, bring up a topic that isn't just like, why does this item timing beat this item timing? And, maybe speak more anecdotally about events or something like that. I missed Cap, dude. I really did. There were a lot of panels where I thought to myself, this current panel plus Cap would be so fucking amazing right now. And I thought that to myself almost every day of the event.
If PPD was ever not on the panel, that's where I think Cap would have fit in. If he was like that other bookend to the panel, with Day 9, Cap could have done just as well as PPD, without question, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Because they both have that same kind of like, obviously Cap isn't going to have the same competitive experience or that TI experience of like PPD. So you can always like literally the easiest bone to throw with the history of all time, PPD.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like up on that stage? I mean, that's great. That's amazing.
Yeah.
There's not many people you're going to have a panel you can ask that to. And that's perfect. But
True.
when it comes to the jokes and the banter and the keeping the conversation flowing and creating those moments that are things that you want to look back on and like, oh my god, do you remember that time? Like, because personally I don't have a look back on the moment panel except for when PPD said that thing about I don't think Rezo got the response he was looking for when he came out to the home crowd like this. Aha, I've defeated the home team. That was best panel moment by far.
That was pretty funny. I liked that. I thought that was very astute, and that's what one of the things people love about PPD is he's not afraid to say that stuff, right? Like kind of call it like he sees it, so to speak. And that one was on point. Should we talk about cosplay contest a little bit? Congratulations to Lady Day Cap, Miss Ellie, with her amazing clockwork. I think obviously costume contests or cosplay contests are always subjective and always people's feelings are hurt and they feel like, why did Axe get top 3 when the Winter Wyvern was so good? But this was one cosplay event where it seemed like everyone was like, well, I disagree about the top 3, but that clockwork, though, was fucking awesome. I didn't hear anyone say a bad thing about that clockwork cosplay because it was pretty impressive. And one of the funniest bits about it was with the helmet on, she couldn't hear jack shit on the stage. So when they announced it, she thought she got 3rd instead of 1st. So holy shit, dude. What an eye-opening moment that must have been. Like, I was just happy to get 3rd. I fucking won.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's so sick. So
apparently she came off the stage right to Cap and she was like, I can't believe it. I came 3rd because she heard her name get called 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, no, you won. Like,
yeah.
And she was obviously extremely excited.
Yeah. So well deserved though. It was a pretty decent cash prize. I'm forgetting off the top of my head, but I think it was.
I think they said $4,000.
Oh.
I thought Machine said $4,000, but I'm pretty sure that's not right.
I thought it was more than that. I thought it was the first place prize was 10 or 15, something in the
Yeah, that's what I thought it was too. Yeah, it was. Oh, it's $15,000 prize pool.
Prize pool. Okay,
so she must have won like 10 or something.
Maybe. I think she got more than 4. I thought Wicked's Winter Wyvern was also quite good. I always like. I know the judges, so I hate to be too critical about the scoring, right? Because I respect the people that judge the cosplay contest. Right. But one of the things to always keep in mind, folks, this is just like a PSA to everyone. Cosplay contests are not created equal, right? Every cosplay contest has a different rubric of how the judges are supposed to grade them. So in some contests, like hero accuracy is weighted higher. In some contests, choosing a hero that isn't humanoid or that's very difficult to execute and then adapting it to a humanoid form gets you bonus points. In some cosplay contests, it's all about craftsmanship. It doesn't matter if you do Crystal Maiden or Winter Wyvern. If your Crystal Maiden is hand done and beautifully crafted and the colors are very accurate, that might place you higher than a Winter Wyvern that is a really cool concept but doesn't have as much detail or didn't take as many hours. I have no fucking clue what the rubric was for this TI cosplay contest, and it's not public knowledge. So as far as we know, the placings were completely accurate based on what the judges were told to do. So I do think Wicked's Winter Wyvern probably deserved top 3. Personally, I'm in the camp of I think you should get bonus points for trying something harder. I think, like, personally, I get very tired of seeing Lenas and Crystal Maidens, and when I see a cosplay contest where there's 5 CMs, all I can think to myself if I were a judge is, really, you chose like the most stereotypical one. You didn't want to get outside the box at all. And that's one of the reasons why I always respected Flash as a cosplayer, because she did stuff like Sniper and Legion Commander and these kind of heroes that you don't really see cosplay that often. And again, that was a lot of respect for Wicked for doing something a lot different, like the Winter Wyvern. And I just think it's a shame that she didn't place top 3 because it's cool. It's cool to see people take a risk and cosplay a hero that is just objectively not easy.
Did we talk about your newcomer stream yet, Tortellini?
Mm-mm.
You just woke up. Well, good morning. No, we did not talk about the newcomer stream, but we could. So Tortellini and Lyrical and maybe some others. I don't know if anyone else was, but those are the two who I talked to in terms of that I know were working it. But yeah, it was I obviously we were at the event, so we didn't get to watch it, but it's a good concept. It's what we needed, right? So if you guys didn't see it, obviously you could always bring it up. I saw them plug it a few times on the main panel, and I'm sure that I think I talked to Lyrical about this. The viewership went like when it's on the main panel, and then slowly dwindle back down. Like they could have done a much better job of promoting it. It seemed, but everything I've heard about it, it was excellent. I've seen tons of feedback and comments saying like I had no idea what Dota was, but the chat was super helpful. Like it was just a place with a smaller, slower chat, and people could actually use Twitch chat for something kind of cool.
That is cool.
Learn more about Dota, and then every time a hero's picked and played, you get all these little pop-ups talking about it. So Tortellini, congratulations. It sounds like it went pretty damn well.
The only complaint I heard was that it might still need some calibration with casters, right? Because one of the hardest parts for newcomers is the lingo. It's not even like understanding conceptually what's happening. It's just when you say, oh, TA pops the BKB, RP from Magnus on 4. If you don't play Dota, that just sounds like gibberish. There's so much lingo and so many little acronyms and stuff. That's the hardest part for newcomers to follow. And I'm sure the pop-ups helped bridge that gap, but it's hard when someone like OD Pixel is calling play-by-play that quickly. There's just no way you can make all the pop-ups come up fast enough. So I do think there is still some value in that kind of old-fashioned way of doing it, where Purge is, very slowly like pointing out this is the key thing you want to look at here. Okay, this is the fissure. Okay, fissure has now stunned 3 heroes, and you can just talk a little bit more slowly in sort of a different manner. That was the only complaint that I heard, that even with the pop-ups, it's still hard to follow the team fights, but it's a newcomer stream, right? There's no perfect solution. So given that it just took like an individual to operate, I think it was the super value play. You know what? Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, it was 100%.
I hope that doesn't undersell it, but I think that is that's the
best way to put it.
It's an impressive feat. Like one person able to bridge that gap so effectively with the interface, I think is that warrants a job well done. So
it was not over-engineered.
Yes.
That's the best way to put it. It was like, what can we do? Return on investment was high. Mike Meggs, the legendary speaker maker, by the way. Shout out to Mike Meggs. Everyone who I met was obsessed with those speakers. I gave one to Anna's brother, and he thought it was hilarious.
Yep. Yeah.
Actually, that's a kind of funny story, by the way. In terms of like the only thing we did do at TI.
Yep.
We did our morning IRL stream. You guys might have seen it a couple times before we lost the selfie stick. That was my bad. I think it fell out of my backpack, but. So we're in our very first day. You saw us get run around. That's a whole other story. But eventually, once we were into the will call line and standing there for what felt like forever in a line that never seemed to move, there was this guy next to us with an OG hat on. And, I think we talked to him right at the beginning and said hi to him, and he was laughing and adding in little comments occasionally. He's a pretty funny dude. And so then I saw him the next day after I'd gotten one of these little speaker things, which were basically these little buttons you could press that did chat wheel sounds. You guys might have seen them somewhere on Twitter or something like that, but they were hilarious. Had tons of the chat wheels. My personal favorites, the wow, get ourselves like some trombones and whatnot. It was good. So I happened to see this OG fan again, and I know that there weren't that many of these speakers to be given out, and I saw people going crazy over them, and so I gave him one, thought it was hilarious, and it was great. The next day, found myself up in the VIP section because I was interviewing players, and I saw this guy walking by, this OG fan, and I'm just like, what the hell is this guy doing up here? How'd he get here? Turned out, Anna's brother. Who would have thought? He was like on our IRL stream for like 2 hours, basically, while we're standing that stupid line. Unreal. He should have said something, but he didn't want to say something, I suppose.
It's fair enough. Yeah. The Twitch IRL is pretty interesting. We had a lot of fun the first day. It's always like, it's a thing. People are. It
was the perfect time to do it.
Yeah, people are so hyped for TI. Like, we're definitely going to do it again next year. The pre-show is the play. Like, we had 8,000 concurrents of people watching us stand in line because they're just like, TI's going to start soon. I've got nothing else to do.
I'm going to watch these idiots.
They're just freaking out. And we were literally just standing there. But it was really cool, though. Like, there are a lot of fans were coming up to us. They're like, hey, my friends are watching. I'm going to give a shout out. It was it had a very Andy Milanakis vibe, right? Oh, fucking. What a crazy TI. What a crazy TI indeed. I feel bad about that whole Andy Milanakis thing still, right? And we talked about it on... I realized, I was like, not that many people know about it, but we talked about it a lot on the second day. We still had a couple thousand viewers. Multiple people came up to me at the event and were just like, so, how's it going with Milanakis? I'm just like, oh, for fuck's sake. Not great. I DM'd him an apology on Reddit, a genuine, heartfelt apology, and he didn't reply, nor did he delete anything that he posted, nor did he block me on Twitter. So I don't know how to feel about it. I feel like if he was really that mad, he might have blocked me. It's weird. Part of me feels like it was a debate moment. I don't really know. I feel bad just because I genuinely like his content. I don't have anything against him, and he thinks that I hate him or something. I don't know. It's madness, Trent. It's madness. But I moved on. I moved on. I was hoping to have a nice discussion with him on Twitter DMs, but alas, I'm not a real celebrity. I'm just an irrelevant Dota caster.
Yeah. Do you want to give a TLDR?
Do I?
Or not?
Okay, well,
I mean, if you brought it up, we have to vaguely explain.
The TLDR, it's not my most proud moment, okay? You guys know what happens, right? You listen to the Zyori podcast. Sometimes I get heated and just start riff-raffing around and use vocabulary that's not particularly PC. So somebody asked what the deal with Andy Milonakis is and why anybody gives a shit about his IRL stream, and I just explained his beingness. I just said that people can't tell if he's like an adult or like a midget or like a teenager or what the deal is exactly. And he looks kind of different, and you know he looks,
screeches a little.
He looks off is the nice way to say it. So that's part of the reason why like his show got traction, and it's, you know, he's all about being offbeat. He likes to stand out and do weird stuff. So I just said that. I might have used the word retard a few times. Somebody clipped it and put it on Reddit, and he saw it and got real mad and then tweeted about it. So that's basically the story, and then that's it. I mean, nothing else happened. There's no payday at the end. He just talked about it on Reddit. 100 Andy Milonakis fans said, yeah, that guy's a dick. Oh, man, that's the cool thing to do right now. Everybody makes fun of Andy to be popular. I'm like, yes, guys, that's what I was doing, because I knew
I just wanted attention.
The ticket to relevance is to make fun of Andy Milonakis. So I was kind of just fucking around and being an asshole. You know, it's kind of like if somebody asked you to explain Jersey Shore, and you think to yourself, well, they're MTV stars, and I say, well, this bitch Snooki hangs out with this douchebag The Situation.
That's actually exactly what it was like.
Yeah, and then, you know, and you just are talking kind of like you would about celebrities, and then all of a sudden The Situation tweets at you, and it's just like, yo, I don't know who this douchebag is, but let's kick his ass. Guidos unite. And you're like, wait, what is happening right now? This is a whirlwind of emotions. I tweeted at I texted my girlfriend and said, I think I've simultaneously hit all-time highs and all-time lows in my career. This is like the biggest shout out I've ever gotten, but it's also the biggest slam I've ever gotten. So I don't know how to feel right now. I'm torn. I'm on uppers and downers at the same time right now, guys. So
it is a fantastic story now, though.
It really is. It's laughable.
It's way up there.
I do feel, like I said, I feel bad because when I watched it back, I'm like, okay, I see how out of context this 45-second clip makes me sound like an asshole. However, come on,
and
dude.
You are an asshole.
I am an asshole,
I mean,
but you're like, you're on TV. You're like, come on, man. Like, I don't know.
It's like if you had a clip of someone saying about you, I feel like, or me, I mean, we hear shit like that all the time. I would think that he would be the kind of guy that would be so used to that like it's part of the job situation, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I hear these kind of comments all the time. Like, I can't stand that Trent and his thick ass Saskatchewan accent. Get him off the fucking cast. Like, I've seen that comment and I laugh my ass off. I don't know. Maybe
we're just cold and dead inside. Maybe he respected us, so he felt extra disrespected.
That must be it. He turned out he was a really big fan of Zyori Podcast.
I genuinely don't know. I was baffled. And the other thing is, I didn't see it until like 6 hours later. You know, we're at the event, we're meeting people. I just checked my phone at the end of the day and was just like, why are people tweeting at me to kill myself? This is more than usual. Then I scrolled down and went, oh, well, fuck. Okay. This is day one of TI. What's the rest of the event going to look like? Jesus Christ. So yeah, that was a highlight for me for sure.
The other big thing from the event, the All-Star match. That was weird. I don't know what that was. Was the All-Star match before or after the announcement of Play Artifact?
I think it was after. The All-Star match was like the second to last day. The All-Star match was pretty late. The All-Star match, it was so we've talked about this before. Like, I've talked about the what did they say in Silicon Valley, the conjoined triangles of success. Talk about the three pillars of tournaments, like making players happy, making fans happy, and then tournament orgs making money. And the example I always use of making fans happy is playing player audio, but that's super extreme because players absolutely hate it, and Valve is basically the only org that can get away with that, and it can only be in a show match. So Fans obviously love that. They want to hear the banter. They want to hear the shit talk. That's really cool, but it's hard to execute. We tried it at one of the summits, right? We did that for a Summit 2 show match, I think. It was the ARDM one where Smash buys the Aghanim Scepter, and he's like 15-0 on Timbersaw, and then he died and spawned Broodmother, and then Fear said, that's what you get for going fucking Aghanim Scepter and ARDM, you fucking retard, and just yells at him, and we caught it on camera, right? Those moments are gold, but they're super hard to catch because of exactly what we saw. You can't just play the audio in both booths and just let it run and then have casters on top of it. It just sounds like a garbled hunk of shit once a team fight breaks out.
It was really too bad. And we heard from several people, they didn't know. Before they walk on the stage, they go, oh, by the way, we might be putting in some player. We're going to have some player audio playing in as well. They didn't say they're gonna have their mics on the whole game. Like, what was that?
Yeah, so it's a good idea, but you really need to just weave it back and forth. It needs to be a choreographed thing. I just felt bad for AC and Draskell.
Me too.
Because it started out like they're casting, you can't even fucking hear them, and then halfway through the game, obviously they got some sort of a cue to like, all right, guys, don't cast during team fights. We're gonna let the players talk, and it's just okay. Can you imagine what AC's thinking? Like, glad you guys brought me for this one game, and then muted us.
Do you know what I was thinking?
Halfway
that
through.
It was bad for us in the stadium. I didn't even consider the stream. You guys had crowd audio, in-game, casters, and players. You guys had 4 audio streams. 3 was bad enough inside the stadium.
Yeah, it was. It was.
We couldn't hear anything.
It got a little bit better as it went on. Like they got AC and Draskell kind of casting the replays, and then
that was what, like 4?
Yeah,
that was terrible, dude.
It got better, is what I'm saying. Like at least they were adjusting on the fly, but it was not good. That was probably the low point of the overall event, unfortunately.
Oh.
And on top of that, I mean,
I was trying to remember what my tweet was. I think I said the fact it was a card game destroyed the crowd hype. TI7 All-Star match. Hold my beer. That's pretty much what it felt like.
And the chat wheels too.
Oh, when the Dota 2 card game came out, that was probably the funny. That made like the front page of Reddit, eh?
Yep.
Of just the crowd reaction to that. It was so perfect. Artifact, the Dota card game.
Dude, everybody thought it was going to be a new game. Like when we were in the audience, the way that thing works, there's always a bit of buzz. Like the hour before it comes out, you know, Valve people start talking to folks and the word starts to spread. So there's all these rumors and everyone's just like, dude, there's going to be a new game. Valve's working on a new game. Shh, don't tell anybody. The reveal's coming. It's going to be awesome. So you start getting really hyped. So the crowd was actually like anticipating a brand new game or like a Half-Life 3 level announcement. They're like, it's...
And even the icon, it didn't look like Dota. It looked like new IP. I was like, it popped up. I was like, space? Is it like space? It looks kind of spacey. Okay, all right. Oh, God. That was actually one of the funniest things I've ever seen, though.
Yeah. It does sound pretty cool, though. I will say I got the chance to kind of pick Bruno's brain a little bit. Like about their vision and the concept for the card game. And he kind of sold me on it. Because one of the things, my tweet when I saw it was, well, hope I like this game more than I liked Hearthstone, because I do not fucking like Hearthstone at all. And supposedly, this is going to be competitive. Like the angle is to make this game more like Magic and make it more of kind of a competitive card game than Hearthstone, which feels a little more... I don't know what the word is for it, but RNG based, kind of campaign based, not really, it's like free to play, but pay to collect, weird, just, I don't get it. I don't understand what the value of their model is. Unless you really like playing Hearthstone, I don't understand why the fuck you would do it. But I'm looking forward to the Artifact beta. It sounds like Valve is going to do a lot of experimenting in the beta, which I'm excited about. So
yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of things not completely locked in,
which is good. I think that's
when Bruno
good.
was talking about it.
Yeah,
so.
they want to put out the beta, and it sounds like it'll be an
classic
interesting
Valve.
Yeah, an interesting
Throw a
beta
bunch of
though.
Stuff.
Yeah,
see what sticks.
Well, but the way he talked about it sounds like it won't just be like, okay, guys, here's the beta, just play the card game, and then we're going to launch it. It'll be the kind of beta where they do weird iterations. Where like, okay, here's a week where like maybe only everybody gets common cards to see what's balanced or broken, and all sorts of weird constraints to kind of test the fringe cases. So that, I mean, I think that's what you should do in a beta instead of just the, hey, we launched a preview of the game that you can buy, but it's a beta. You know, it becomes like an excuse to, well, it's a beta. Of course there's going to be bugs. But this is like, well, aren't betas really for testing and trying new things and balancing and all that kind of stuff? So anyway, the dialogue just gave me like cautiously optimistic kind of attitude. Yep. I'm really excited to play the beta. I think this concept of multiple lanes that Day 9 was talking about could be really cool. It sounds like a good idea. The devil's always in the details, but if they're onto something with like a new competitive angle on card games, that could be pretty fucking awesome.
It sounds like it's a good way to add strategy to a card game, right? Because if you think about how card games work, Magic the Gathering's obviously like it's going to be the one that allows the most strategy, simply because when you're playing Magic, there's a lot of things that can be done during your opponent's turn, which that's the biggest difference between Hearthstone, at least in my experience. Because Hearthstone, once your turn's over, you can't do anything. I haven't played much Gwent. From what I understand, it's kind of similar to Gwent, where there's like not really like turns in a sense. Like there are turns, but there's not turns. Like things can happen. And Gwent has this like 3-tier structure where there's like units in the front, then there's like this middle ground of units, and there's like a back line of units.
Yeah.
But I think the sense of like creating the 3 boards, assuming you can place any of the different cards or different characters into any of the like these 3 lanes, then that means you're going to have a spreading of resources, right? And so any good RTS game comes down to resource management and knowing where to pressure your opponent and trying to spot a weakness that they have in their defense. So that's not something that's in a card game because there's only one board. So if you can use and like spread your stuff across 3 different boards, that does give some good hope to a card game.
Yeah.
In my eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the potential's there. And it also sounds cool from not only Dota lore aspect. I mean, that is why I even gave Hearthstone a chance, is because I like Blizzard lore. And it's cool to see that lore adapted into a card game. At least at the beginning, there was some nostalgia value. And that should be the case in this game as well. And it's,
oh, yeah, the lore, dude.
Well,
hype. Lore hype.
But it also sounds like part of the strategy will be... like, for example, I think they still want Slardar to be able to counter Ricky, for example. Like, conceptually, amplified damage still reveals invisible units, so in that lane matchup, there's an advantage. Like, some basic level of Dota knowledge will help your ability to play Artifact. You know, it's not going to be made up in the sense that the general conceptual counters of Dota should still apply, at least in some sense, in the card game, I think, right? I don't remember who told me that, but I feel like that was part of what they want to try to execute with it, which is really cool.
I need to double check here. Artifact, the Dota card game, still only following 2 people. Sunsfan and Slacks. 23.6 thousand followers. Only follow Sunsfan and Slacks.
Moonduck!
Like, who's in charge of this?
Who's in charge of this Twitter? That makes you wonder, though. That makes you wonder, boys and girls. Put on your tinfoil hats. Are we going to Sunsfan our way to the card game
Moonduck,
top?
the couldn't make my way to TI casting Dota. So here I go. Trent. Artifact
but think about it.
Extraordinaire.
Trent, who better to write the lore for Artifact than
that's what we're saying.
The one person who knows lore may be better than Valve themselves. It's Slacks, dude. He's the only person that qualifies.
We're losing him. We're going to lose him.
We're going to lose him to Valve. Oh, no.
The one people that he won't say no to. It's actually true.
Oh, God.
Others have tried.
Volvo, please, have mercy.
I wouldn't even be mad.
Oh, how could you? I wouldn't be mad. I would just be dumbfounded. I would put that in my resume. Hired man that was then hired by Valve.
Oh, Slacks.
But either way, I am cautiously optimistic for Artifact. I think I said to Sunsfan, like, I am excited for a card game that I will actually enjoy, because I've never really played Magic, and a lot of folks told me, like, if you weren't into it before, it's just now it feels a little bit... If you want to play online Magic, you have to spend a lot of money, so don't bother unless you really like it. I don't like Hearthstone. I tried Gwent, wasn't a huge fan. It's okay, but I don't love it. Some folks are saying it's pay to win. I haven't even played it long enough to really get to that point. So I'm excited at the idea of a card game that I could actually enjoy playing. You know, you can't really play online poker here in Colorado, so that's upset. That used to be the card game that I played, but I'm not in Jersey anymore. Jersey and Nevada, Nevada are the only 2 legal online poker states.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for a card game, baby.
We'll have to do some more tabletop simulator game nights.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You think you're going to make the transition? I was joking with Mott yesterday. I said, dude, future Artifact caster right here, buddy. That's you.
Hey, man, when it comes out, I'll play it a bunch. I would never leave Dota. I don't think I can at this point. Unless I really get shut out of all the jobs. Then maybe. But, yeah, no, looking forward to it.
Yeah, it'd be cool. So, wow, we filled 50 minutes talking about almost only TI stuff, Trent. That's pretty impressive for us. It was a fun TI. I really had a blast this year. We went to a couple of meetups as well, met quite a few fans, a couple fans of the Zyori podcast as well. Tip my hat to
that was hilarious.
Everyone that came up and said, dude, I like your podcast. Trent was a great addition. I even got one guy came up to me and said, dude, you need to bring the philosophy major back on. I was like, holy shit, man. That dude, he doesn't even have a Twitter. I always said, this is my friend Dylan. He studied philosophy. We're about to talk about some cool shit. He was on 2 episodes, and actually somebody came up and said, you got to get him back. So Trent, I think we're going to do a 3-way podcast one of these days.
Dude.
And Skype in the philosophy major.
Philosophy majors, they're something else.
We need to bring him on next week and talk about Nazis, dude. Maybe he's the right guy to talk about this Nazi stuff.
Can you imagine?
Fuck me, dude. Oh.
I did a course in university. It was international. It was philosophy of international law, and so it was like just talking about like essentially like how laws are formed, society, laws, and all that shit, in like the deepest philosophical sense with like a bunch of texts and everything. I was the only person in the course who was not a philosophy major. Oh my god, dude. Those people, man, that is crazy. That's some deep shit. Like, I think you become like a different person. Like, you actually think about the world pretty differently.
Oh yeah.
When you're like getting into all this philosophy, because you're like studying all these people who their whole goal in life was to essentially try and think of the world differently, and you have to learn about like 50 of them. And so their brains are just like, even if they're like, they just think differently, I feel like, and they talk about different shit. Yeah. And I was just like, I was hanging on, dude. But it was obvious.
Well, it's a weird thing because you hear people say, well, what are you going to do with a philosophy degree? And it's like, if you're actually like invested in it and quote unquote good at philosophy, you know, like you study it and take it seriously like you would any other major, it's like having a physics degree. People will just hire you for your ability to do critical thinking and just analyze problems, because like you said, you have a different perspective on problem solving than people that haven't gone through all of these kind of logical tautologies. LD is a philosophy major, by the way.
Oh, really?
That's part of the reason why his handle is L Deep, because he LD is definitely, dude. I have had some pretty deep arguments with that guy, and it is. I feel like he is part of the reason why I am the way that I am. We have had some late drunken nights, like the. I remember.
I didn't know that.
Hotbid asked us once at like the last BTS hub we were all at, something like, what was like the most heated discussion you guys ever got into at BTS? And I was like, oh, dude, the great FDA efficacy debate of 2014. And he was like, I like that you didn't even have to pause and think about it, that you had one right there. I'm like, oh, dude. 4 a.m, drunk LD. Fuck you guys. I'm going to go upstairs. I'm going to show you the evidence. He comes down with a fucking like packet of paper that he printed out. And he's just like, look at all of this evidence. Just look at all of this data as he's flipping through all this bullshit that he just printed out. It was so fun. It was one of those conversations that started in a good place and just got progressively more derailed as we drank more and more. And by 3 or 4 in the morning, it was just like, dude, there's no reason that we should still be drinking and talking about this. We should all fucking just go to bed. And it was the kind of thing where LD's like, all right, I'm going to bed. Halfway up the stairs. And that's another thing, Brian. There's no way that... And it was never ending. It never ended. The sun came up and then we all just passed out and woke up and went, what the fuck happened last night? What are all these FDA papers laying around on the floor? Oh my word! Oh, sorry, that was just a
let's
nice
get
trip down memory lane.
I'm ready. I'm raring to go, man. These guys, I'm not gonna lie though. In terms of that was a 4th year course I was in. So they were all like finishing their degrees and stuff like that. And I've only ever seen one of them again, and he does still work at the grocery store. So it's a little rough, I think, that philosophy life. Yeah, but, no, he was like doing his masters and stuff still. But
Dylan, the philosophy guy that we had on, he does some sort of social work. He works in like the inner city in Philadelphia, and I think he teaches, or he's like a teaching assistant. He works with inner city kids of some sort. He's really an interesting guy to talk to, and you're right that he thinks about the world in a different way. But I found myself like this morning, right? But in our little pre-show, I was complaining about how I woke up this morning right before the podcast. Kelsey watches PBS News every morning, and they were doing a piece about the Nazi stuff, and she asked me about it, and I kind of grunted, and she was like, "Oh, come on, I like hearing your opinion on this stuff." I just went off, and an hour later, she's like, "All right, I got to go to work now. You need to go calm down a little bit."
I don't even know how to talk about any of that stuff, guys. Just like, don't just be nice to one another.
Ugh.
Don't be a Nazi. I don't know.
Nazi. Yeah, dude.
I think the Nazi thing really oversimplifies the argument. That's the worst part.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just such an easy buzzword to throw around and anger people on both sides. So just like take the Nazi out of it and just be like, hey guys, be nice to everyone.
Yeah.
If you're not being nice to everyone, you're probably a fucking idiot. If you're judging people based on things that you can't see about them other than physically looking at them, you're probably a fucking idiot.
I can't even, like, you have obviously not seen the Vice piece on this whole Nazi thing, have you? Okay.
No.
The opening scene are these Nazis or like whatever, the Unite the Right people talking to each other, and one of the guys is saying, yeah, there's no way we could be doing this in Canada. In Canada, it's basically illegal to be mean to somebody. If you say something that hurts someone's feelings, you might go to jail. Not literally, but that's what it's like up there. Literally how the piece opened, and what you just said is so, like, unironically insane. Like, if anybody in Twitch chat has seen the Vice piece, which, by the way, I highly recommend you watch. Vice News, it's an amazing show. It's like their daily news pieces. The one they did on the 11th or 12th or whatever the fuck it was, the whole episode was just about this Nazi stuff. They were at the rally. Like, their reporter almost got ran over. They were literally right there when people got run over by the cars. They were the only people there. So they have this amazing, like, on-the-ground footage. They have interviews from people, like, immediately after it happened. It's gut-wrenching, but it's insane that they were there when all that shit was going down. It is one of the best pieces, I think, in terms of a metered discussion of what's happening right now. I don't know. I guess they're maybe a little left-leaning, but whatever, dude. Fucking watch it. If you don't know what's going on or you haven't been following all this political stuff, go to Vice News on YouTube. You can watch it without torrenting it. It is really, really a good piece. We watched it before bed last night, and I think that's part of the reason I woke up so fucking triggered, because at the end of it, you're just like, this is happening right now. This happened like less than a week ago. What the fuck is going on?
Yeah, it's I don't know. I don't even know where you go, man. Alt right, alt left. I hate all those terms because they're all just like, they're blanket terminology that allow people to just label people. It's like doing the exact same thing as being like racist, and just like it's essentially the same concept. You know, you're throwing around the N-word at every single black person you ever see. It's kind of the same thing when anyone who disagrees with you anywhere slightly on the other side of like the right side, you just call them a Nazi. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
So like you're just like, you're labeling these people, and then it just creates this big divide between everyone.
Yeah.
It's like that whole idea, like all these crazy conspiracy theories and everything like this and all that stuff about like, oh, if you divide the nation, they're easier to conquer, control them like sheep. I mean, that's all some like sci-fi and like apocalyptic and like authoritarian shit, but it's true. It actually is true. Like, because no one gives a shit about like EPA laws that are being removed now, or like, I saw that they just reversed this thing about like how much toxic sludge can go into a river from a factory, but no one cares. We're all just talking about Nazis right now.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Well, I mean, that's always been the case in America, though, right? There's always been this demographic of people that vote solely on abortion, or solely on guns, or solely on whether or not the president is religious, right? America has always kind of had this reputation for the dialogue being about very much emotionally charged issues, and a little bit less about like the logical of, guys, don't we kind of care about the environment, or, you know, don't we kind of care about healthcare? Whether you think it should be paid for by the government or by the people, we should still have some sort of a system that works here, you know? But most people don't vote on that because it's not grabby. They vote on, this president's a baby killer. Like, well, okay. I mean, agree to disagree on that. But there are a lot of other issues here. You know, it's a myriad of problems that we're dealing with. I hate that. The thing that I hate about all of these big political issues, right? It doesn't have, this is just the most current one, but basically since this Trump campaign, it's like politics in America have become binary. Everything is for or against, right or left, red or blue.
But it's always been like
black
that.
and white.
It's just like, it's finally gotten to a point where it's, I don't know. It does definitely feel like more so that, but it's been like building this way for so long.
This is the most extreme manifestation I think we've ever seen. And especially when it comes to what's happening right now, the whole thing ends up being a gray area, right? The argument that a lot of folks are making is like, well, Nazis are clearly over the line and they forfeit their right to free speech because they're spreading hate speech. And the First Amendment doesn't cover literally anything, right? For the classic example, you can't yell fire in a crowded theater just because and say, oh, I've got a First Amendment right. No, fuck you. That's like causing a problem. That's not covered. So obviously, if you're the KKK starting like a lynch mob, that's not covered by the First Amendment because they are actively inciting violence against an individual or a group of individuals, right? These modern day Nazis or Unite the Right or whatever you call them are smarter than that, right? They have legal teams and they know, like, there's a reason why David Duke is not in jail right now, is because he knows exactly what to say to get his message across without being held accountable for it, right? It's like the Charles Manson thing. He didn't actually murder people. He got other people to murder on his behalf. And trying to prove that difference of what did Charles Manson make them do versus what did these people do on their own accord is tricky, right? That's why it took a long time to convict Charles Manson, right? So it's all part of a gray area thing where do you draw that line of, like, obviously these Unite the Right folks are not saying nice things and there's a lot of issues, but you can't have it both ways and say, oh, I'm all for free speech. I love freedom. And as soon as someone says something you don't like or disagree with, say, oh, they shouldn't be allowed to talk. They shouldn't be allowed to assemble. You know, and it's where do you draw that line of what is too hateful, right? You know, if they say, we think America should be only white people. Okay, I mean, yeah, I don't agree with you, but should you be allowed to say that? It's where do you draw that line is what I'm saying. And it's hard to decide where that line is drawn, and whether you say, okay, Nazis are clearly crossed the line, or this group of people, they're not Nazis, they're right up at the line and they haven't crossed it. Regardless, we're arguing about where that line is. And what I'm saying is, when it comes to censorship, who gets to decide where that line is drawn? And that's why it's a slippery slope and why it gets scary. But of course, a lot of folks on the left will probably call me a Nazi for not just immediately denouncing everything they say. Disclose, I don't agree with anything they have to say. I am just one that thinks the First Amendment can get a little bit complicated when you have people saying things that aren't, overtly, like one of the things that I was talking about this morning is, well, they have all these guns, right? They're super armed. And it's like, well, they're just waiting for an excuse to shoot somebody. But they're legally allowed to have those guns by the Second Amendment. So it's this weird chicken and egg thing where it's like, yeah, they're intimidating people by being armed to the teeth. But
I see what this morning was like.
Yeah, dude. It's fucking terrible. So, like, that's why I haven't talked about this shit, because it's fucking complicated and everybody just wants to pick a side. You're either for or against, and everything in life is so much more complicated than for or against, Trent. It truly is. It really is. And if
it all comes down to that whole idea of just, like, I don't know, be nice to people who are normal. Try and be normal.
Yeah, dude. Try and be nice is the best.
Listen to each other. I think if people actually listen to one another, maybe people wouldn't be screaming at each other and having, like, death rallies. Because, like, right now, no one listens to one another. Everyone's just in their own echo chamber and all this stuff. So it's difficult. Try and think about things from the other side, but obviously, when that side is so far right or so far left, they're probably not worth thinking about or listening to.
Right.
It's more important that you try and bridge that gap in the inside and try and just, like, create these centrist issues. But anyway, roster shuffles.
Hell yeah, dude.
Did you see the official OG announcement that everyone's been waiting for like a year?
I saw the headline. I didn't read it in great detail, but Anna is out. That is the headline, of course. So
it sounds like it's very indistinct if it was a kick or if it was a voluntary leave. He is taking a break.
Right? Isn't that what everyone was so happy about? That this wasn't like a, hey, you're kicked, idiot, no explanation. That this was actually like a thought-out PR kind of a, wasn't that the commentary that I read this morning? That people were praising OG for doing like a proper professional player split? That's awesome.
Yeah, that's good.
I love it.
I would think, honestly, if he did, I would guess he got kicked, to be honest, and he's like, okay, well, this works because now it's like the school year, and I'm going to go to school and do my thing, and that's perfect. If he was allowed to stay on OG, I'm pretty sure he would have stayed. Am I crazy? I feel like I'm not crazy, but who knows? I would love it to get an official statement. I would be very curious to know. But there were definitely rumors flying for months about like potential replacements for him. Yeah. My hand is up for Resolution, the greatest free agent right now. All right, guys, everyone else shows up at the after party. Typical TI after party. T-shirts, maybe a couple button-up shirts, looking nice, But Rezo, and the whole party's already bumping everything at this point, and then Rezo comes in, only person in the entire party, full suit. Like, this guy knew what was happening. He was basically LeBron James showing up to the entry draft, just like, hello, you all know who I am. That was Resolution. Like, he knew what was happening. Every single person in that building wanted him inside their team. Like, there's no question.
Oh,
like,
yeah, dude.
I heard like 4 people say they were pretty sure they're getting Rezo.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was shopping and selling his stuff to everybody.
As he should be. I mean, his team had a breakout performance. He individually had a breakout performance. And there was a lot of pressure on him this event, right? A lot of eyeballs, and he performed. And that is something that teams look for. And I think he is also a player with a reputation of being a good teammate, right? Like he's not a hothead. He's someone that adds to constructive conversations, all that kind of stuff.
I've never heard any personal beef with him.
Right.
Like,
He's
Blitz
like
praises him to the end of the earth. Suns fan praises him.
He's like one of the most drama averse players in the space right now for how good he is. So, breakout performance. As this guy said, breakout performance. The dude got second at last TI. Yes, but he's playing with a completely different team this time. So you have almost like a higher expectation. You performed that well at the last event. So the fact that he came out and didn't bomb and with a new squad of people performed just as well. I mean, didn't place as well, but I would say individual performance, he played up to par. Okay, breakout might not be the best word, but I think you guys know what I'm saying. An impressive performance nonetheless, with that additional pressure of coming in as not an underdog.
It's hard to stand out a lot as a stand-in too. But
that's another aspect. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, it's exciting
what
times,
else?
man.
Kezu MP removed from the team.
Mm-hmm.
They both knew at the after party or before. I can't remember. I was talking to Kez at the after party, and he was. I talked to him for like 2 seconds, and he was like, "I'm working," and I was like, "Yeah, go do your."
It was funny. I saw Fogged at the after party, and it was the complete opposite. He shows up, jeans, t-shirt, zip-up hoodie. I look at his girlfriend, and she's got heels, the full dress, curled hair, full makeup. I'm like, Daniela showed up tonight. Fogged? He's like, dude, I'm fucking done. I've been wearing a suit every day this week. It's comfort zone tonight. It was just it was like just a classic Fogged moment. I loved it. Made me smile.
Oh, I wonder. Hey, I'm curious about something that I know nothing about. Did you notice that No-Tail was on his way home, and he tweeted that Valve wanted me to stay a little while longer, stopped his flights in like the Netherlands, chilled with Sing Sing for a bit, and flew back to Seattle. First off, how important can it be that he gets pulled back for like that flight? Isn't that weird?
Whoa, I had missed that. That is really weird.
Yeah, I saw him tweeting about it. Now I remember the last time this happened, it was talks about player like unions and shit, right?
Well, sort of.
And
that was what started it. It was before the last majors were started. So Valve had some sort of a summit. They flew in a bunch of players. I don't know if it was all players or some tournament orgs or whatever, but they had some sit downs and dialogues about where are we now? Where do you guys see our esport relative to other esports, and where do you guys want to see the esport go? So it was Valve's way, I guess, of kind of extending the olive branch to the players and hearing their side of what they want out of the competitive scene, and then we got the major system that we've been enjoying up until now. So it makes you wonder if that's what's happening, if it's some sort of a player summit to talk about this upcoming season, the majors and minors. And I mean, that schedule that was posted is like nutso jam-packed, and that might not even be the final form.
Give you guys the link.
Right? That might not even be the final form. That could still change. There could even be more events added. So there's a lot to talk about. Maybe they're flying some more key players in. I mean, No-Tail is, I think he's an owner of OG, right? It's one of those player-run orgs, but I would imagine it's, like how Puppy is like an owner of Secret. Is it the same for No-Tail and OG? I guess I'm actually not entirely sure. An owner. Okay. So maybe that has something to do with it. But I don't know. I don't know anything. It's very interesting, the theory crap, though. Get on your tinfoil hats, boys and girls.
Only to June 2018. Sorry, I only went to June. Apologies. But yeah, that link will give you guys a rough calendar over the next couple of months, which is very handy to have because starting in October, there's a lot of Dota.
Yeah, this next season is going to be crazy. Still some question marks. Obviously, Moonduck didn't get a minor or anything like that, but we have some plans for content. We are definitely working on Midas mode. It's getting more and more serious by the day.
Don't talk about that dreaded
closer
event.
to fruition. Oh God, don't bring up Midas mode. Don't remind them. Don't remind them. They're gonna mutiny.
Yeah.
So
it's being worked on.
Yeah,
actively.
We've got some stuff in the works. Hopefully, there will be plenty of content in the upcoming season for Moonduck, BTS, and Join Dota alike. So I think everybody is pretty excited. I talked to Kawa Guy a fair bit at the after party. Pretty much everybody who is a caster in Dota right now is excited about this next season. There is going to be so much fucking content. It is unreal. So all of us, I think, are at that point of, fuck this whole BTS versus Moonduck thing a little bit. There's going to be so much that none of us could do it all ourselves if we wanted to. So, the more the merrier. It's always good talking to Kyle Guy. He's a chipper, positive kind of a bloke.
Oh, he's the best.
I got a little inside info on the BTS events. Not going to say anything, but they sound pretty cool. That's all I'm going to say. They've got some fun ideas in the works, so I'm excited, dude. If every major has a similar idea, I hope every major and minor is going into this season thinking, holy fuck, there's so many other events. How can we make our event stand out? And every event is trying this crazy experimental, like, we've got a bear. Oh, yeah, bitch, we've got a tiger. Oh, yeah, well, we've got Coldplay. What's up?
All right, I like where your head's at.
I want to see some crazy shit. I want to see events stand out. Who's going to be the first event to sign Base Hunter, right? I mean, that's got to be memorable.
Yeah, that's a good one. You should sell that to someone.
There you go. So I am really pumped about this season, Trent. This is an exciting time for Dota.
What if we went to an event? What if every single talent's at the event? Everyone. So everyone you can think of that is a talent in Dota 2 is at the event, and they have a talent show. What would you do? If you have to stand out and you have to beat like LD and Gods and Winter and everyone, you have what would your talent show be?
Talent show?
Yeah, you have to do something.
I'd have to think about it, but I think I would probably try to do a stand-up comedy routine. I think that's the only thing that I could pull off. Like in that arena of I have to best some of these folks, and I already know the bit that I would do. It's really offensive and really inappropriate, and I think that it's like a Jim Jeffries level bit. So I think if I could go, I think I could do 5 minutes about anal sex and make a lot of people laugh. Just say. So what would you do?
I don't
chug maple syrup.
A comedy sketch. That's pretty good. What would I do? I actually have no idea. I don't think it could be like a physical feat. I can't think of something that I could do that could be physically impressive.
Did you juggle?
Sorry, guys. I was just thinking. I don't think I can juggle. Maybe I could. One time I dunked a flaming basketball. I could do that again.
Can you imagine the heckling from the crowd, though?
Oh my god, you would be getting roasted. Yeah, I would go with some stupid dunk thing. I don't know. So I would try. I don't feel like many people would go the physical route. So I would get like a trampoline or something, and get some crazy flaming basketball and go for some shit. Everyone else would be doing some dance or something.
So you would be Evel Knievel, Trent jumps over a porta potty on a motorcycle while on fire.
That would be my strategy. Yeah.
Oh my fucking god, dude. That would be funny. That would be legit, though. That's one of those things we need to pitch to a TV network. All right, guys, Dota talent show. Let's do this.
Oh, it'd be so cringy. Oh, it'd be beautiful.
Everybody would watch it, though. It would just take over the /r live stream fails subreddit. Yeah. It would just invade. It would just become that Reddit. Oh, all right. I got to get out of here, Trent. I got lunch with the accountant in half an hour here, buddy. The accountant. Yeah. Okay. Hey, we got to go talk about some money. We got to get the numbers.
I finished The Sopranos.
Trent, well, that was a great podcast. We talked about Dota and Nazis, so that's great.
Wow, perfect. My average Thursday morning.
All right, fam. Well, thank you per usual for joining us here. We are going to have a What the Duck coming up tomorrow. So this is a double header. We got Zyori Podcast today, What the Duck coming tomorrow. It's going to be a good one. Slacks is going to be there. Suns fan is going to be there. Trent might be there. I might even be there.
Maybe.
It's going to be a good one. So you're going to want to join us around this time tomorrow for What the Duck. It's on the calendar. You can find it at moonducktv. If you want to find the audio-only version of this podcast, it'll be up later today, as well as on the Moonduck YouTube. You can find those at moonducktv/podcast. That's where you can subscribe to that audio-only feed, download those MP3s, and share the good word of Dota 2 with your friends. I just plugged What the Duck's podcast feed, not wrong podcast. This podcast you can find at zyori.tv/podcast. That's where you can find the audio-only downloads, the iTunes link, all that other bullshit, Google Play, and whatever you other kids are doing with your phones these days. Thank you for joining us. We're both on Twitter. We know. Sorry, Andy Milanakis. We still love you. We'll see you next time on the Zyori Podcast.